Do you believe in vampires? Let's pause for a moment and allow that question to hang in the air. It's a question that has haunted humanity for centuries, buried deep within our collective psyche. Vampires, creatures of the night shrouded in mystery and fear. Are they mere figments of our imagination, or could they possibly exist in our reality? In the next 20 minutes we will delve into this captivating topic. Remember to like and subscribe for more intriguing content. Vampires have been a part of folklore and mythology for centuries. Indeed, we find the roots of vampiric tales woven deeply into the fabric of human history, across various cultures and eras. Let's take a journey back in time. Picture ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization where creatures akin to vampires were first mentioned. The Ekimu was feared as a vengeful spirit that, due to an improper burial or violent end, was unable to find rest. This entity was believed to roam the earth, causing havoc and spreading disease. Fast forward to ancient Greece, where we encounter the Lamia. This dreaded creature, often depicted as a beautiful woman, was said to transform into a monster that feasted on the blood of children. The Greeks also told tales of the strigas, nocturnal birds of ill omen that would swoop down to drink the blood of the living. In Eastern Europe, the vampire myth took on a more familiar form. The Romanian strigoi and the Slavic upor were undead beings that rose from their graves at night to drink the blood of the living. These tales, filled with dread and caution, were passed down through generations. In China, we find the zhangshi, a reanimated corpse that sucked the life force, or qi, from its victims. Unlike their Western counterparts, zhangshi were depicted as stiff and hopping, a far cry from the suave, cloak-wearing figures we often imagine. The vampire of modern literature, most notably embodied in Bram Stoker's Dracula, was a synthesis of these ancient myths, a culmination of centuries of fear and fascination with the unknown, the undead, and the immortal. It's clear that the vampire, in one form or another, has been a part of human culture for millennia. These creatures of the night have long captured our collective imagination, embodying our fears, our desires, and our relentless quest for understanding the mysteries of life and death. So the concept of vampires is nothing new, but does that mean they exist? Let's delve deeper into this chilling question in our next scene. Let's take a scientific approach to this question. Now, we've all heard the legends, the eerie tales of blood-sucking immortals lurking in the shadows. But what does science have to say about vampires? Let's delve into this fascinating realm of inquiry. First off, let's talk about a medical condition that's been linked to the vampire myth: porphyria. Porphyria is a group of rare genetic disorders that affect the nervous system. Symptoms can include sensitivity to sunlight, reddish-brown urine, and even psychiatric disturbances. Sounds like a vampire, right? But here's the catch: porphyria doesn't make you crave blood. The link to vampires likely comes from a misunderstanding. Some types of porphyria can be temporarily relieved by injecting heme, a component of blood. But let's be clear, drinking blood won't help. Now let's address some traditional vampire characteristics. Immortality, for instance, is a big one. As far as science is concerned, immortality in the sense that vampires are portrayed, ageless beings unaffected by disease or time, is scientifically impossible. Aging is a complex process involving numerous genetic and environmental factors. There's no known way, scientifically, to halt this process entirely. Then there's the ability to transform into bats. This is another vampire trait that has no basis in reality. Transformation or shapeshifting defies the laws of biology. Each species has a unique genetic makeup that determines its form and function. Altering that on a whim is pure fantasy. And what about the whole bursting into flames in sunlight thing? Well, while sunlight can cause harm to humans in the form of UV radiation, leading to conditions such as skin cancer, it certainly doesn't cause spontaneous combustion. The severe sun sensitivity in vampire lore likely stems from conditions like porphyria, as we discussed earlier, or xeroderma pigmentosum, a rare genetic disorder where UV light can cause severe skin damage. But again, it's a far cry from the dramatic incineration we see in movies. Finally, let's address the blood drinking. Now, while it's true that blood contains nutrients like iron and protein, the human digestive system simply isn't designed to process blood as a primary food source. Drinking blood can actually be harmful, leading to iron overload and a host of health issues. So where does this leave us? The traditional image of a vampire, a blood-drinking, immortal creature that transforms into a bat and combusts in sunlight, just doesn't hold up under scientific scrutiny. Science seems to debunk the existence of vampires, but there's more to this story. Our fascination with vampires is evident in our pop culture. Vampires have been a captivating presence in our books, movies, and television shows for decades. This supernatural creature has indeed sunk its teeth into our shared imagination. Take a look at literature. Vampires have been a staple of horror and fantasy novels since the publication of Bram Stoker's Dracula in the late 19th century. This iconic book set the stage for countless vampire stories to follow, from Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire to the more recent Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer. Moving on to the silver screen, vampire films have been a popular subgenre of horror since the early days of cinema. From the silent film Nosferatu to the romantic Twilight saga, our fascination with these night creatures has remained constant, not forgetting the cult classic The Lost Boys, which gave us a more rebellious and rock and roll image of vampires. In the realm of television, vampires have also taken center stage. Shows like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, True Blood, and The Vampire Diaries have kept audiences hooked with their blend of drama, romance, and supernatural suspense. These series have given us a more intimate and serialized relationship with vampires, allowing for deeper character development and complex story arcs. But what does this prevalence of vampires in pop culture mean? It's arguable that these portrayals shape our perception of vampires. They've transitioned from monsters lurking in the shadows to complex characters with their own motivations and struggles. This shift reflects our evolving attitudes towards the unknown and the different, turning fear into intrigue and even admiration. However, it's important to remember that these are just stories, crafted by skilled authors and filmmakers to entertain and thrill us. They provide a safe space for us to explore our fears and desires, but they are not accurate reflections of reality. Pop culture keeps the vampire myth alive, but does that prove their existence? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into real-life vampire communities in our next segment. Did you know there are people who identify as vampires? Yes, indeed. It might seem like something straight out of a gothic novel, but it's a reality in today's world. There are communities and individuals who identify as real-life vampires. Now, we're not talking about the blood-sucking, sunlight-shunning creatures of the night that you see in movies or read in books. These are everyday people who share a specific lifestyle and set of beliefs. These self-identified vampires, often referred to as sanguinarians or energy vampires, are found across the globe. They are teachers, doctors, lawyers, and even stay-at-home parents. They come from all walks of life, all ages, all genders. So what makes them consider themselves as vampires? Well, sanguinarians believe they have a physical need to consume small amounts of human blood to maintain their health and well-being. It's not about violence or harm. These individuals often have willing donors, and they follow strict health and safety guidelines. On the other hand, energy vampires, also known as psychic vampires, believe they need to absorb the life force or energy, often termed as prana, from others. This could be through touch, proximity, or sometimes even from a distance. But before you start imagining fanged individuals prowling the night, it's important to clarify that these people do not possess supernatural abilities. They cannot turn into bats, they don't sleep in coffins, and garlic doesn't repel them. They are humans like you and me, albeit with a unique lifestyle and belief system. These communities often gather online to share experiences, offer support, and discuss their unique lifestyle. They also meet in person at vampire-themed events and gatherings, where they can be themselves without judgment or fear. It's a fascinating world, isn't it? But it's also one that's often misunderstood and misrepresented. These individuals face a lot of stigma and prejudice due to misconceptions and stereotypes. While these individuals identify as vampires, they do not claim supernatural powers. They are simply living their truth in a world that often struggles to understand them. Let's look at the psychological aspect of believing in vampires. The human mind is a complex and fascinating entity, filled with a rich tapestry of thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. One such belief that has captivated our collective psyche for centuries is the existence of vampires. But why? What is it about these nocturnal creatures of legend that we find so intriguing? One possible explanation lies in our inherent fear of death. Vampires, with their immortality, represent a defiance of this ultimate end. They are the embodiment of our collective longing to transcend our mortality, to seize control of time itself. In a world where everything is transient, the idea of a creature that defies this norm is both terrifying and captivating. Next, we have the allure of the unknown. The human mind is drawn to mysteries, to the unexplored and the inexplicable. It's why we look up at the stars. It's why we dive into the deep seas. Vampires existing in the shadows, lurking at the fringes of our understanding, represent this uncharted territory. They symbolize the thrill of the chase, the quest for knowledge, the exploration of the obscure. Then there's the psychological concept of the other. The vampire, with its nocturnal habits and blood-drinking ways, is a perfect embodiment of this. It's different, it's exotic, it's dangerous, and yet, it's also human-like. This duality, this blend of the familiar and the foreign, stirs up a potent mix of fear and fascination within us. Lastly, we cannot discount the role of societal and cultural influences. From Bram Stoker's Dracula to Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, from Twilight to The Vampire Diaries, vampires have been a staple of our literature and media. These cultural touchstones shape our perceptions, feeding our fascination, shaping our beliefs. Psychology might explain why the vampire myth persists, but it doesn't prove their existence. Our minds are powerful, capable of conjuring up the most incredible stories and beliefs. But as we delve deeper, remember that the existence of vampires, like any other belief, ultimately hinges on empirical evidence, not just psychological fascination. Throughout history, there have been claims and sightings of vampires. From the eerie backstreets of Victorian London to the remote villages of Eastern Europe, tales of these nocturnal creatures have sent shivers down spines for centuries. Take the case of Arnold Powell in the early 18th century Serbia. After his death, villagers claimed he had returned from the grave, feasting on the blood of the living. The local officials, compelled by the terror-stricken villagers, exhumed his body. To their horror, they found it well preserved with fresh blood around the mouth. This incident fueled widespread vampire panic across Europe. Then, there's the infamous Highgate Vampire of London. In the early 1970s, two men claimed to have seen a tall, dark figure with piercing hypnotic eyes in Highgate Cemetery. This sparked a media frenzy, leading to a vampire hunt that attracted hundreds of people. Across the pond in the United States, Rhode Island's Mercy Brown incident in 1892 is another chilling example. After the death of Mercy and her family members, locals suspected her to be a vampire, as she was thought to be preying on her surviving family members from beyond the grave. In more recent times, the Chupacabra of Puerto Rico has kept the vampire legends alive. Described as a creature that drains the blood of livestock, numerous sightings have been reported since the mid-90s. These tales all share common factors: fear of the unknown, unexplainable occurrences, and a deep-seated belief in the supernatural. Yet most of these claims lack substantial evidence, often based on hearsay, fear, and superstition. The sightings are typically vague and inconsistent, adding to their mystique but detracting from their credibility. Scientific explanations often debunk these claims, attributing them to diseases like porphyria or catalepsy, or animals like bats and wolves. Yet the allure of these tales persists, fueled by our fascination with the macabre and the unexplained. These claims are intriguing, but are they enough to prove the existence of vampires? So, do vampires exist? It's a question that's been haunting us for centuries, and yet we find ourselves at a crossroads of myth and reality. We've journeyed through history, tracing the origins of vampire lore, and we've peered into the realm of science to see if it could offer any tangible evidence. We've delved into the world of pop culture and seen how the vampire has been reimagined and romanticized. We've even ventured into real-life vampire communities and examined the psychological perspectives that could explain our fascination with these mythical creatures. History is filled with references to blood-sucking creatures of the night. From ancient Mesopotamia to modern-day Transylvania, tales of vampires have persisted, each adding a new layer to the rich tapestry of vampire mythology. Yet despite the abundance of historical references, concrete evidence for the existence of vampires remains elusive. Meanwhile, science has tried to debunk the vampire myth, offering explanations ranging from medical conditions to psychological phenomena. Yet these explanations, while logical, still leave room for doubt, proving that science can't entirely dispel the allure of the unknown. Pop culture has painted the vampire as a tragic hero, a villain, and even a romantic interest. Through books, movies, and television shows, we've been introduced to various interpretations of vampires, each one a reflection of our own fears and desires. Real-life vampire communities, on the other hand, offer a different perspective. These individuals, who identify as vampires, challenge our preconceived notions, but also remind us that sometimes reality can be stranger than fiction. From a psychological standpoint, our fascination with vampires could be attributed to our innate fear of death, our curiosity about the unknown, or even our desire for immortality. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the vampire myth persists, captivating our imaginations and probing us to question the boundaries of reality. So, do vampires exist? Well, the answer isn't as clear-cut as we'd like it to be. The existence of vampires remains an unsolved mystery, open to interpretation. We hope you found this deep dive into the existence of vampires intriguing. As we've journeyed through history, science, pop culture, and real-life communities, we've unearthed some fascinating perspectives. Now it's your turn to join the discussion. What do you believe? Could vampires be more than just a myth? Don't forget to comment your thoughts below, share this video with your friends, and stay tuned for more captivating content.